We're most interested in initially the apparent reoccurrence of the threat of rabbits on our landscape, and then we're interested in wild dogs. Could you tell us where the Cooperative Research Centre is in relation to biological control of these animals?
Yes, biological control certainly applies to rabbits. As for wild dogs, we are taking a toxin approach, a new toxin approach there. With the rabbits, calicivirus people will be familiar with. It was accidentally released and then had a great impact on the rabbit numbers initially, and then there was some slowdown in its ability to infect rabbits. Our research identified that there was a benign calicivirus in the environment in Australia already. We're fairly confident that it arrived with the first fleet with the rabbits. So it brought that benign calicivirus with it right from the very beginning in Australia. The benign virus gave them a resistance for about 7 weeks, but it didn't cause any symptoms in the animal. But it gave them a resistance against the calicivirus that was eventually released, and particularly in cooler and wetter areas where the benign virus flourished. So we're going to overcome that in 2 ways. One, we're going to introduce a new strain of calicivirus, which the Australian rabbits won't have a resistance to, but because we know that every animal develops a resistance to a new biological control, the new thing that we're doing is called RHD boost. That's Rabbit Hemorrhagic Disease Boost. The boost means that in a laboratory we will be multiplying the generations of the virus so quickly that the variation of the virus that we release out there and keep updating will be at least a step ahead of the resistance. So the rabbits won't be resistant to the calicivirus this time round.
So if I'm a rabbit, I've got reason to be relatively scared about the future?
Well, the rabbits are starting to make a comeback. There is some early evidence to show that the virus itself is actually starting to become more virulent again. It's gone through a trough where it wasn't as effective as it could be, but it's starting to increase in virulence. So that's good news. And with the new technology in the platform of biological control technology coming up, there's confidence that we can get on top of rabbits again. Good news on the wild dog front. Just recently, our CRC, in combination with the commercial arm, Animal Control Technologies Australia, submitted an application to the Australian Pesticides Veterinary Medicines Agency for 2 baits based on PAP, which is a new type of toxin, and that's the main ingredient in Foxacute against foxes and Dogabate against dogs, wild dogs. The new twist in the technology is that this new bait PAP comes with an antidote. The existing baits are used in 1080. There's no antidote against 1080. And so people who were scared that their farm dog might accidentally get baited and that was stopping them, this might be an opportunity for them to participate in baiting programs again.
So can you give us some data on the incidence of wild dog attacks on livestock? I mean, is that something that the CRC monitors aggressively?
It's more the responsibility of state agencies to monitor the attacks on wild dogs. I'm aware from media monitoring that wild dogs are featured in the mass rural and country media, and increasingly in suburban media, increasing in such an extent that wild dogs are the #1 article about invasive animals across the country regularly. And the second most commonly reported story is daylight. It's hundreds of items ahead of the third item, which varies from locality to locality. Maybe rabbits, feral cats, fairly high up in the people's minds. And if they're living in a city area, it might be something like an Indian minor bird. So there's always a different invasive animals threat depending on where you live.
All right, just in summary then, can you tell us a bit about the funding for your program, where it comes from and who's behind the CRC?
Well, we're cooperative by name and by nature. We have a $72 million research program underway now from 2012 right through till 2017. The Australian government came on board and not matched, but contributed to the other funding we obtained from 26 participants. The participants are from overseas, USDA, who is interested in our hog research, feral pig research, English FERA agency, New Zealand Departments of Environment and Conservation, CSIRO here locally. Our big industry funding sources are Meat and Livestock Australia, Australian Wool Innovation, with the State Departments of Agriculture and Departments of Environment, and universities themselves. the source where the researchers are based normally.
So this is a 5-year pledge that is going to see this R&D, critical R&D, carry on?
Yes, and we'll have some good deliverables during that time. Our products are entering the commercialisation phase, and they'll become commercially available increasingly.